Lane Motor Museum opened 8 years ago. We're in Nashville, Tennessee. We started with a collection of about 120 cars, predominantly European. We currently have about 350 cars in the collection, still predominantly European. We have about 125 cars on display at one time. Well, I always tell everybody, I blame it on my dad, because he was a car enthusiast from the time he was young, and when we were kids, you know, we were always working on cars, going on car trips and stuff like that, so my dad's to blame.
And I've got the feeling we might be meeting again. Let's not waste this chance.
Dad bought a new MGTF in Germany when he was in the Army in 1954, and then when he got out of the Army, moved back to Michigan, got married, realized that living in Michigan, cold weather, got kids coming, that a two-seater sports car, English sports car, wasn't very practical, so he got rid of it. But then about 10 years after that, he decided that he wanted to get another MG, and he bought a MGTF in pretty bad condition, and so we drove it, or he drove it for about 6 months, and then we started to restore it. And then after a couple of years of restoration, he asked me one time what I wanted for Christmas, and that's when I was 12, and I said, well, gee, Dad, you know, I'm thinking I'd like to have an MGTF of my own. I never thought that that really could be a present for me, but as it ended up, for Christmas he gave me a MGTF. The catch was that it was in pieces in the back of a pickup truck. And from there, I did kind of a right turn across the channel and started with a Citroen SM. That kind of got me into the Citroen era, I guess. As you can see from there, it just ballooned out. I think it's really important to drive the cars. You know, I know people say it's a museum, their artworks and everything, but I think, you know, you also, in my mind, a car was made to be driven. You know, and that was the only purpose of a car, was to move people and possibly packages from one place to another. So I think you can study a car. You can take any car. You can take the T87, you can read 100 books about it, and you know, and look at internet stuff and everything like that and try to learn about a T87. But I think to really understand a car, till you really get in and drive it down the road, and you can read things about people that have driven it, and they can talk about this and that and everything, but I think the ultimate test is for you to drive it down the road and then really evaluate it as a car. So I think it's important that the cars be driven, because that's what they're made to do. I mean, artwork that hangs on the wall was made to be looked at, okay? So, and a car was made to be driven. But I think it also, I mean, people view them here and they get one view of it, but really the beauty of the car is to see the T87 going down Murfreesboro Road, so people can see that, hey, it drives and what it looks like going down with traffic and everything like that. So I think it's very important that the cars are driven. Certainly part of our mission is to save the history and try to do the research and pull all the history together on these interesting, unique, kind of one-off or two-off or very low-volume cars, because, you know, as time goes by, if you don't save that and you say, well, someone else is going to do that, if they don't, I mean, once it's lost forever, you know, it's pretty much gone, and you know, it's just not savable. So, but I tend to look at cars, you know, why is this car different than all, you know, we have 120 cars in here, why is the Houston Rocket different than the other 119? You know, and I also try to look at cars and say, what interesting thing did they try? What were they trying to accomplish? And were they successful or were they not? And why, or, you know, why weren't they successful? So I try to look at it in other, you know, people that walk in the door. You know, if I look at it and say, wow, this is really interesting, you know, on the surface, and then I can find more interesting things about the car, then that interests me a lot, because I think people can come in the door, view the car, read the sign about it, and become intrigued by it kind of as I'm intrigued by it.